Extreme Ownership is a book written by former Navy SEALs Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, which outlines principles of leadership they learned in the military and apply to business and everyday life. The first chapter of the book, titled Extreme Ownership, focuses on the importance of taking responsibility and ownership of one's actions and decisions as a leader. The authors begin the chapter by sharing a story from their time in Iraq, where they were tasked with leading a SEAL task unit. During a mission, a miscommunication between different teams led to the death of a fellow SEAL. Willink and Babin realized that they were ultimately responsible for the failure and that they needed to take ownership of the mistake to learn from it and prevent it from happening again. The authors then explain that taking extreme ownership means that leaders must take responsibility for everything that happens under their command, both good and bad. They must not blame others or external factors for failures or mistakes but instead look inward to identify what they could have done better. Willink and Babin emphasized that extreme ownership is not just a mindset but also a culture that must be fostered within an organization. Leaders must model this behavior and encourage their team members to take ownership of their actions and decisions as well. The authors also discussed the importance of decentralized command, where leaders empower their subordinates to make decisions and take ownership of their areas of responsibility. This allows for faster decision-making and a more agile organization that can adapt to changing circumstances. Finally, Willink and Babin stress that extreme ownership is not easy, and it requires discipline and hard work. Leaders must constantly reflect on their actions and decisions, learn from their mistakes, and make necessary adjustments to improve their leadership abilities. In conclusion, the first chapter of Extreme Ownership sets the tone for the rest of the book by emphasizing the importance of taking extreme ownership as a leader. By taking responsibility for everything that happens under their command, leaders can create a culture of accountability and empower their teams to make decisions and take ownership of their areas of responsibility. In the second chapter of Extreme Ownership titled Not Bad Teams, Only Bad Leaders, authors Jocko Willink and Leif Babin explain the role of leadership in building successful teams. They argue that leaders must take responsibility for their team's performance and success, rather than blaming external factors like the team's composition or resources. Willink and Babin begin by describing a situation where they took over the leadership of a SEAL team that was struggling to perform. They realized that the team's previous leader had failed to establish clear objectives, standards, and a culture of accountability, which led to a lack of discipline and a weak team performance. The authors explain that leaders must take ownership of their team's performance and work to establish a clear mission and goals. They must also ensure that their team members have the necessary resources and training to accomplish these objectives. Moreover, leaders must set high standards for their team and hold them accountable for meeting these standards. Willink and Babin also emphasize the importance of building trust and cohesion within a team. Leaders must create a culture of mutual trust and respect, where team members trust each other's abilities and are willing to support each other when needed. This can be achieved through effective communication, delegation, and by leading by example. Furthermore, the authors argue that leaders must be able to adapt to changing circumstances and be flexible in their approach. They must also be able to prioritize and allocate resources effectively, especially during times of limited resources. The authors conclude the chapter by stressing that a leader's success is measured by their team's success. A good leader takes ownership of their team's performance, builds trust and cohesion, and sets high standards for their team. They also adapt to changing circumstances and prioritize resources effectively. In summary, the second chapter of Extreme Ownership emphasizes the importance of strong leadership in building successful teams. Leaders must take ownership of their team's performance, establish clear objectives and standards, build trust and cohesion, and be flexible and adaptable in their approach. By doing so, leaders can build high-performing teams that achieve their objectives and succeed in their mission. The third chapter of Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin is titled Believe and focuses on the importance of belief and mindset in achieving success. The authors argue that a leader's mindset and beliefs have a significant impact on their actions and the actions of their team. Willink and Babin start the chapter by sharing a story about a difficult mission they had to complete during their time in Iraq. The mission seemed impossible, and the team faced numerous obstacles, but they were able to succeed because they believed they could. The authors explain that leaders must have a positive and optimistic mindset, even in the face of adversity. They must believe that they can overcome any challenge and inspire their team to do the same. This belief must be genuine and backed up by action, as mere words are not enough to convince people to believe. Willink and Babin also stressed the importance of a leader's belief in their team. Leaders must have confidence in their team's abilities and potential, and they must communicate this belief to their team. This inspires the team members to believe in themselves and their capabilities, leading to better performance and success. Moreover, the authors argue that a leader's beliefs must be aligned with their actions. If a leader believes in a certain principle or value, they must demonstrate this through their actions and decision-making. This creates a culture of consistency and builds trust with team members. Willink and Babin conclude the chapter by emphasizing that belief is not enough on its own. Leaders must also put in the hard work and effort to achieve their goals. However, belief provides the foundation and motivation to keep going, even when faced with setbacks and challenges. In summary, the third chapter of Extreme Ownership highlights the importance of belief and mindset in achieving success. Leaders must have a positive and optimistic mindset, believe in their abilities and their team's potential, and align their beliefs with their actions. While belief is not enough on its own, it provides the motivation and foundation for success. In the fourth chapter of Extreme Ownership titled Check the Ego, authors Jocko Willink and Leif Babin emphasize the negative impact that ego can have on leadership and team performance. The authors explain that ego can lead to a lack of accountability, a failure to take responsibility, and a reluctance to listen to feedback. Willink and Babin start the chapter by sharing a story about a mission in Ramadi, Iraq, where their SEAL team was nearly ambushed due to their ego-driven approach. The authors explain that ego can cause leaders to underestimate their opponents and overestimate their own abilities, leading to dangerous situations. The authors argue that leaders must check their ego and prioritize the mission and the team's success over their own individual desires and interests. Leaders must be willing to listen to feedback, admit mistakes, and take responsibility for failures. By doing so, they can create a culture of accountability, where team members are also willing to take responsibility for their actions and mistakes. Moreover, the authors explain that ego can also lead to a lack of humility, which can negatively impact relationships with team members and superiors. Leaders must be willing to listen to feedback and advice from others, including subordinates, peers, and superiors. This helps to build trust and respect within the team and creates a culture of continuous improvement. Willink and Babin conclude the chapter by stressing the importance of self-awareness and self-reflection in checking the ego. Leaders must be aware of their own weaknesses and biases and take steps to overcome them. This includes seeking out feedback from others and being open to constructive criticism. In summary, the fourth chapter of Extreme Ownership highlights the negative impact that ego can have on leadership and team performance. Leaders must prioritize the mission and the team's success over their own individual desires and interests, listen to feedback, admit mistakes, and take responsibility for failures. They must also practice humility, be willing to listen to feedback from others, and be self-aware of their own weaknesses and biases. By doing so, leaders can create a culture of accountability, trust, and continuous improvement. The fifth chapter of Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin is titled Cover and Move, and it highlights the importance of teamwork and coordination in achieving success. The authors explain that in any mission or operation, there are two types of teams, the cover team and the move team. The cover team's primary responsibility is to provide cover and support for the move team. They keep the enemy at bay, allowing the move team to advance and accomplish their objectives. Meanwhile, the move team's primary responsibility is to advance towards the objective and complete their mission. Willink and Babin emphasize that both teams are equally important and must work together in a coordinated manner to achieve success. The cover team must keep the enemy at bay, allowing the move team to advance safely. The move team must also communicate their objectives and movements to the cover team, ensuring that they are not caught off guard. The authors explain that this principle of cover and move applies not only to military operations but also to any team-based activity or project. Leaders must ensure that all team members are working together towards a common goal, with each member playing a vital role in achieving success. Moreover, the authors argue that leaders must also practice decentralized command, which means giving subordinates the freedom to make decisions and take action without needing to consult with their superiors constantly. This allows for faster decision-making and more effective coordination between team members. Willink and Babin conclude the chapter by emphasizing the importance of communication in achieving effective teamwork. Leaders must ensure that all team members are communicating effectively, sharing information, and coordinating their actions. This helps to avoid misunderstandings and ensures that everyone is working towards a common goal. In summary, the fifth chapter of Extreme Ownership highlights the importance of teamwork and coordination in achieving success. Leaders must ensure that all team members are working together towards a common goal, with each member playing a vital role in achieving success. This requires effective communication, decentralized command, and a clear understanding of each team member's responsibilities. By practicing cover and move, leaders can create a culture of teamwork and coordination, leading to greater success and accomplishment. The sixth chapter of Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin is titled Simple, and it emphasizes the importance of simplicity in decision-making and communication. The authors argue that in high-pressure situations, simple and clear communication is essential to achieving success. Willink and Babin start the chapter by sharing a story from their time in Iraq, where they were tasked with clearing a house of enemy combatants. Due to complex communication and unclear instructions, the mission was nearly a failure. However, once they simplified the communication and instructions, the mission was successfully completed. The authors explain that in any situation, leaders must communicate in a clear and concise manner, providing simple instructions and objectives. Complex instructions can lead to confusion and mistakes, which can have dire consequences in high-pressure situations. Moreover, the authors argue that decision-making must also be simplified, with leaders focusing on the most critical factors and information. Leaders must prioritize the mission and objectives, focusing on what is most important and avoiding distractions. Willink and Babin also stressed the importance of simplicity in planning and execution. Plans must be clear and straightforward, focusing on the most critical elements and objectives. Leaders must also ensure that the execution of the plan is simple, with clear and concise instructions for each team member. The authors conclude the chapter by emphasizing that simplicity requires discipline and focus. Leaders must be disciplined in their communication, decision-making, planning, and execution, avoiding unnecessary complexity and distractions. In summary, the sixth chapter of Extreme Ownership highlights the importance of simplicity in decision-making, communication, planning, and execution. Simple and clear communication is essential in high-pressure situations, avoiding confusion and mistakes. Decision-making must also be simplified, focusing on the most critical factors and information. Plans and execution must also be simple, with clear and concise instructions for each team member. Simplicity requires discipline and focus, and leaders must be disciplined in their approach, avoiding unnecessary complexity and distractions.